Hello, I welcome you all with love, and thank you for attending Cousens Commentary. I guess there's a lot to comment today. So let's start with a prayer. Shebiku Kudashab Brihu Ushidate. Be Ilu or Imulaiha Shabuke Miloke. Be Dasham Shem Kozrael Kolam. Amen. Okay, so we always start with a little dance to get the flow going. And then we'll go right into our topic. And here we go. Okay, and welcome everybody with love. And I'm going to talk about something that's kind of a really important issue because it's what we're all facing in many ways. The topic is suicidal empathy. Think about that for a second. Suicidal empathy? What are we talking about here? So I look at people are very upset about what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, what's going on in about 110 different countries around the world, and people are struggling in different ways. But let's talk right now, since Middle East is kind of the center of attention. Let's take a look at that, but let's look at it a little bit broader to understand that these events aren't just, here's another war. So at one level, we can certainly say there's a physical war going on, and there's a level of interpretation that's very concrete. Iran shooting missiles a lot at Israel. In 12 other countries, they just had a missile go 2,500 miles, hits a joint base with Ukraine, and not Ukraine, but with England and US. Real chaos is being created. Okay, that's one level. Now, there's another level, which is a deeper understanding that this has been going on for 1,400 years, this battle between Muslim and Judeo-Christian traditions. And we can take a look at the last 47 years. This didn't happen in a vacuum, that since the mullahs took over Iran, took it away from the Zoroastrians and Persia, ancient times, was a very sophisticated country, and their main religion was Zoroastrianism, and they are really struggling around those issues in a different way, but the mullahs, Islam, pushing that very hard. And this battle didn't start last week or 3 weeks ago. It really started for the last 47 years. I visited the temple in Argentina that got bombed by the radical Iranian people. And there are places all over the world that this war is going on. Clearly in the United States as well. We're seeing different small groups doing it. Or we had Sydney where a lot of people were killed. So this is not just a little bit. And we're having a bad war day. We're talking 47 years of war, but we're talking about 1,400. Okay, so that's another level. Then we have the metaphorical level. What does that mean? Well, in ancient times, from the time of King Saul, we had a battle, and King Saul defeated the Amalek king, but the Amalek king got some of the women pregnant, and they migrated to Iran or Persia. And generations later, we have Haman, who comes from this tradition. And Haman's thing was to kill all the Jews, but it didn't work out right. They were defeated. And Haman and his 10 sons were hanged because the king Ahasuerus kind of woke up to what was going on. And it turned out that the queen, his queen, was Queen Esther, and I was like, wait, this is no good. But it backfired on them. 2,500 years ago, Jeremiah, Ezekiel prophecies talked about the battle between Israel and Iran. That's a long time ago, but they said Persia, and that once Iran would be defeated, Persia would be defeated, and we would begin the transition into the 1,000 years of peace. And this could be what's going on. So this battle's been going on, but now we're looking at it in a different way. Both sides, the Iranians see whether they win or lose, that the Mahdi will become the result of this if they're dedicated. And the Mahdi is a person that will come and help them conquer the whole world. And the whole world will become Muslim. And those who don't will be killed or subjugated. And so that's their model, which they have a clear spiritual purpose. And I think it's important to understand that level of it. And as I say, the prophecies, the Judeo-Christian tradition, but mostly we're talking about the ancient prophets 2,500 years ago, where they predicted there would be a battle, and it would be with Persia, and they would be defeated. And then we would begin to the 50-year transition to the 1,000 years of peace. So all these issues are going on. So we, back up a second and say, okay, where do we get suicidal empathy? Well, if we can't see the whole picture, and all we see is, Iran's getting bombed, and we, obviously there's a certain amount of leftists who are, brought into that picture. We can't quite see that this is a war, a spiritual war that's going on. It isn't just all those poor people in Iran, are getting bombed. And in fact, what we see here in the Middle East on the, in the different news clips, is a lot of the Iranian people actually are cheering for the U.S.-led in Israel side of things, because they've been held in slavery and terribly oppressed, and particularly the women. It's been very oppressive for the women. If you get an order, you show your hair, you don't have or wear a hijab, you get thrown in jail, raped, or killed. And those are very real things. So the oppression of women is a very high level in the Iranian. Now, we meet a lot of Iranian people who have escaped. Now, we're talking about in Israel, where they escaped to Israel, but also in Los Angeles. There's a lot of Iranian people. They're very sophisticated. In fact, the Persian culture is very sophisticated and in a sense, very highly regarded in the Middle East. Now what the Iranian mullahs are doing, that's a little different, because they just slaughtered 32,000 or more, Persians. They're not Arabs, they're Persians. And, as they're rebelling. And so all this is going on, and the mullahs see it. This is, as they say, a religious war. And they're ahead of the Westerners in understanding that way. So what I'm saying is there are different levels of understanding. We have just, okay, people are bombing, they're shooting, they're killing. Then we look at the history of it, and we get a deeper understanding. And we get the metaphorical understanding. For example, Hitler also saw himself as Haman, and his generals were the sons of Haman. And so at the trials, after the war, these 10 generals were saying they were Haman's sons, and they had been sentenced to death, as Haman's sons had been, the 10 sons, the 10 generals. So we see it being played out again, is what I'm saying, is that metaphorically, this is going on. And we can see, and it's hard totally, because it's going back and forth. For example, Pharaoh himself was stiff-necked and caused a calamity of his whole army being drowned in the Sea of Reeds after it split, and his people got, well, we have Iran following that stiff-necked position that's causing a great deal of difficulty. And then we have the Strait of Hormuz, another body of water that's being split and divided in certain ways. We'll see. I don't think they're going to be able to shut it down, but they're trying. And these are kind of some of the issues in kind of a deeper understanding. And again, allegorically, we're looking at wars, and we're looking at the Germans, as I mentioned. We're looking at Haman and Esther and Mordecai, which were in ancient Persia, Iran, now called Iran, where Haman had planned to, from the tribe of Amalek, planned to kill all the Jews, and it got reversed around because the king realized he was married to Esther, a Jewish woman, a little bit like Trump having a Jewish daughter and grandchildren. It's very interesting, the play. It's like almost repeating itself. Are we ever going to do any better? I don't know. I would hope so. And there's an awakening among the public to these levels of understanding that is pretty important, and it has to be done. So, it's like October 7th happened in Israel. 1,200 people were killed, raped, martyred a variety of ways. And people within a day were demonstrating in the streets against Israel fighting back. That really happened. It's like, oh, okay. Suicidal empathy. And even though nobody's really paying much of a price with that, they certainly were in Israel. And now we have Israel, we have the U.S. involved, and perhaps France and England and some other countries are willing to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. So we don't know where this is going, but we're replaying these cycles and these metaphors. And I believe it will end in the prophecy is that there'll be a Messiah coming after Iran is defeated, and it will lead us into the 1,000 years of peace. That's the good news. As they say, the Iranians have a different point of view, is that the Mahdi will come and they'll turn the whole world into Muslim. So the spiritual battle is not new. We need to see it as a spiritual battle and not just simplistically a war, or a war that's going on for 47 years or 1,400 years. Then we need to see the parallels, the historical way it's been played out, so we have a much deeper appreciation for what's going on, and ultimately seeing it as the Muslims do, as a religious war. Who's going to dominate the world? Are we going to have freedom and liberty? U.S., Israel, nobody's perfect, okay? Let's not miss that point, but certainly there's more focus on freedom, liberty, and religious freedom of religious expression than there is under the mullahs, where you get in jail or killed or raped for freedom of expression, freedom of your religion, and ending oppression of women. So this is going on right in front of us, and we are in the midst of this history. My point is, it's good to understand this is a much bigger picture than we're having a battle with Iran, U.S. and Israel and some of these other countries. It's like, no, it's like multi levels of this happening. So what can we do? First, to have a little understanding that we don't want to have suicidal empathy. Oh, they're bombing Iran, we shouldn't do that. That's terrible. It's like, or they're bombing Germany because World War II is going on and we're trying to end the war and save millions of lives. No, it's not. It doesn't help. It's like, it helps the dark side, because we are having a battle of light and dark. And it's really important that the forces of light win this, because this is determining where the world is going. So it's not a small deal. It's a rather big deal, even though it looks like a regional war. So my call is for us to start with being aware, start to be praying. We have a weekly World Peace Meditation on Sundays, which is 6:30 Israel time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we have that. We have a fast coming up in the Dominican Republic, May 26th to June 3rd. I think it's going to be really special, but when you fast, you can kind of go into retreat and kind of look at things. The world's moving very fast. Fast, that's a pun, but taking a fasting retreat is a good way to go inside. We'll be meditating twice a day and having group meetings every day and supporting people coming off, helping heal their type 2 diabetes and other chronic disease type situations. So it's really powerful. And at the end of it, we'll have the 8th day, we'll have because it's a 7-day fast, we'll have a thing called the 0 point that teaches people how to work with their minds and deal with negative thoughts and issues. So all this is happening. We are focusing on the light. We are focusing on regeneration. We're focusing on regeneration of our physical bodies, our emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. And that, in a way, is what the war actually gives us the opportunity to wake up to. So, I will see you next week at this time. And peace be with you. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Takiyasan. And that red horse it's thank you, different mode star. But and I never asked for spiritual names, but I got the name of Rohita from my Swami Muktananda, and Rohita is the red horse, the liberated red horse of the 10 incarnations of Vishnu. And then I have yellow horse that he gave my Native American teacher with the sun dance and eagle dance, called the yellow horse. So, okay, this is the yellow horse, so let's take a look at that. Behind you see the tree of life. So I want to thank Doug for putting that together. And it's a powerful message that the purpose of the horse is, the spiritual purpose, is to take us into the heavens, to elevate us to the heavens. And the red horse is Rohita. So it's very personal in this year of the horse. So thank you for noticing it. And thank Doug for putting it together. So peace be with you. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Takiyasan. And I hope to see some of the people at the Spiritual Fasting Retreat in the Dominican Republic. Peace be with you. And thank you, Doug, for your good work. You're really good, and you're really appreciated. I hope